Good morning, guys. I am here with the puppies. It is about 5:30 in the morning and I want to let the sheep out to graze. We have water that goes to the trees. As you can see, we have grass under here, plenty of grass. And I want to let the sheep out to graze without them getting into this hay bale. You'll notice we have a lot of pallets. I use pallets for wood storage. I use pallets to cover hay. I use pallets underneath hay. And I also use them as a temporary fencing at times. With sheep, it's a visual deterrent. A goat needs Fort Knox. A sheep needs a visual deterrent. So I didn't do top and bottom. I just did the middle. They'll poke against it a couple times, and then they'll remember that they're surrounded by all this vegetation that needs to be taken down, and they'll go eat. The nature of sheep is to remember. They're kind of like an elephant that way. So you let them get in the garage or the feed room one time, and they will always remember that there's grain in there. So I have all this grain here for the chickens for the year, and these bins just don't cut it. So when it comes to grain, we put them in garbage cans with lids. All right, I have it very well labeled, sheep minerals. The reason for that is that sheep cannot have excess copper. So we have sheep minerals, pig minerals, and goat minerals as far away from the sheep minerals as possible. I'm just going to make sure that they do have their minerals up there. There's their minerals. All right, here's their minerals. You can see they still have a few. I do like these mineral bins that hook over. I do have to tie them because the way that we train them to eat the minerals is to put some grain in when we first introduce it to them. It makes them a little bit rough, and so we tie it down so they don't just knock the whole thing off when they're fighting over the grain. When you have livestock and fruit trees, things change, their needs change. So here you can see I've got hog panels, and they're tied up with baling twine. The reason I have them tied up with baling twine is because needs can change. I can change these hog panels to somewhere else when I need to. What happened was I had garden fencing here, just chicken wire, and just step-in stakes, and I'd had them there for 10 years, and it had worked just fine because the only thing I had in here was poultry. However, we upped our sheep game this year, and while the visual of the garden fence would keep our mama sheep out, the baby sheep didn't see it as a barrier. And I have all my blueberries in here, and cherries, and apricots, and honeyberries. I've got all sorts of stuff in here. And so what I did is I took all my extra hog panels that I had for the pigs, and I put them in here, and I tied them up temporarily. So there's the garden. And what I'm doing right now is just walking up to close our fence, close our gate, so that the sheep can't get out to the road. And it is also made out of cow panels. It is not permanent. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting permanent in, but it does mean when you have a new project that comes up, it may not be the easiest thing in the world to borrow supplies from one place to another when you don't have the money to just go buy new, just go buy extra. Personally, I can't go just buy new and extra all the time. Come on, guys. These two belong to my mom. That last one is ours. You can tell the difference. They're almost the same age, but two were fed on mama's milk and one was fed on goat's milk. Even though goat's milk is wonderful, mama's are better. What you think, guys? Is that happy times? So the main reason I wanted them out today is because it's just going to be a roaster. They may not feel comfortable being up here if we're not up here to kind of give them a little bit of confidence. But we want to make it known that they can come out and get a little bit of shade. All right, kiddo. Can you show how you dump the water? Make sure you're not pushing too hard on the fence. See if you can pull the water back a bit. Yeah, next time let's not have it quite so close to the fence. Do you want my help? Here, stop. Stop.
I just have to get it in order.
Okay. Go in and grab a handful of their hay and come scrub it with that handful of hay. Just the stems, to get all the nasty off. And that way your hand doesn't have to get nasty. Do you want me to go turn on the water?
Yeah.
All right. So I do have hoses run to everywhere that I need a large amount of water. In the winter we have to haul water by hand because everything freezes. But I just keep a lot of hoses on hand. When I see a good sale, a good price on good hoses, I buy good hoses. I no longer buy bad hoses. Life is too short to be throwing stuff like that away. All right, this is wormwood. It is an anti-parasite, anti-intestinal worm. Food, you don't want them to eat too much of it. Generally, the animal will eat and nibble a little bit here and a little bit there. The problem is if you get too much of it and you don't have any other good feed, it will poison them. And so that's why you never confine an animal. You never confine an animal with wormwood or any other kind of parasite medicine, because then when they get bored, they'll eat it and it'll kill them. They've got to have lots of other food to be focused on. The tree leaves are going to be more succulent this time of year than the grass. But you see, they have not even noticed that there's hay there. They do not care because we put the fence up before we let them out. This kind of thing is very susceptible, these little tiny trees. So that guy, if I were to go get some wire and put it around, it would be happier. Because out of sight, out of mind, if I have a cage around it, they won't bother it. If I don't have a cage around it, they'll just kill it. You can see how tall the grass is in there. I need to go in and weed whack it. The reason is that the grass won't grow back short enough for the geese to eat unless I go in and cut it down. I'd love... That is their mama. Oh, you better not. You better not. Yeah, you get your head out of there. Get out. Get your little head out. Huh? Make sure both of those get hooked up now, okay? At this time of year, when you have a lot of grass growing, it's really silly not to cut it down because it turns into mulch and it turns into soil. Whatever you don't cut down just impedes your fruit bushes. And if you have bindweed, it actually climbs up your fruit bushes, which is what was happening here. Lots of water here, so the bindweed was just going right up. You can see like this. It was climbing up grass to get into the fruit tree. So by cutting it, I allow new grass to come up, which the geese can eat. The geese can't really eat the big tall stuff. I just use a little electric weed whacker in these spaces. I do have a scythe, but a scythe has a hard time getting in here next to fences like this unless I have a big enough room to swing. I would need something that made me bend over and was a smaller blade in order to get in here without destroying the blade, so I just use the weed whacker. Alright, the sheep have been out for about 2 weeks now. Instead of feeding them primarily hay, they are now living on hollyhock stems, apparently. Also, they have defoliated the lower branches of all the fruit trees, which, because these are seedlings, these came up volunteer, I don't care. I have no concerns about those particular trees. And again, all they're taking off is the leaves, so even these trees will come back next year. But these lower branches, The leaves have all been removed. Currently their favorites are these poplars. They're just crazy for them. So I had volunteers coming up in the driveway all over the place, and the sheep have all eaten them back to an appropriate distance in the road. I came and lopped all these extras down, and what the sheep didn't clean up we took to the goats, but the sheep mostly cleaned all that up. So what I wanted to show you is that I have opened up a new grazing space for the sheep that is not directly in my fruit bushes. They absolutely stripped the wormwood, so they are well and truly wormed. That's a lot of wormwood, and if I had more wormwood for them to chew on, I'd be a little worried, because it can be hard on their kidneys. You can see everywhere that I had a tree, they have defoliated it. As long as it's a mature tree, it doesn't matter. However, if it's you should go get in this shade, Graham. This is a juvenile, a very young tree, and they completely defoliated, which killed it. Once you have your permaculture established, sheep are really good for this kind of thing. Goats would absolutely just kill everything, but the sheep, they will keep your grass down. They'll keep your sometimes noxious herbals down. We have their gate open so that they can go in and get their water. And they still have hay. We are not leaving them without hay. You can see their hay in there. So wherever they want to go, they can go. Them being out, we still have plenty of minerals for them. And they, like every other creature in the world, they like variety. So they will go from eating grass to eating grapes. Oh, I hope they come out. Come on, sheep. Come on. Are you hungry? Come on, sheep. Come on, sheep. Come on, sheep. Let's go. You got to come through here. Come on. Oh, it's so nice in here. Look, you got all the fun stuff to eat. Come on. So, the reason I want them in here is because these are my sea buckthorn. They have yet to produce any food for us. And a lot of times what will shock a fruiting plant into producing fruit is to have it nibbled on, to cut it back severely. So I want the sheep to come up here. I do have quite a few service berries all through here, but they're so shaded by the sea buckthorn that they could use some help too. This is a plum, a thorny plum. And then unfortunately I do have more hollyhock up here for them to kill. And again, lots of fruit bushes. The things that I really think would not survive their predation, I have covered with this kind of cage. Not chicken wire, but garden fencing. And then these are my magic squares for things that are short. And I have just Fort Knoxed it. And unfortunately they will definitely kill my hollyhocks. So sad. However, what I really need is I need my sheep to come in here and I need them to graze the grass down. What do you think, sheep? Oh, I'm so glad. He's so happy. See him right there? He is in his happy, happy place. And you can see how tall the grass is. It's above his shoulders. And so rather than me weed whacking all of this, oh my gosh, so time consuming. I'm going to let him come in here. So I have a few things that I don't want him to kill. I don't want him to kill my poplars because I put these in 3 years ago. This is their 3rd year. They're doing really great. Hybrid poplars, I just put a stick in the ground. If you saw my living fence video, that's exactly how I do it. And I have raised the cage up so it's about knee height for me, because all the foliage is up here. They don't care about the stems. As long as it's mostly just even a visual barrier, they will leave it alone. Whereas with goats, they would knock it over. So anything that I see is surviving, I covered. And then this is how I temporarily put up cow panels to block them from going in there. The reason I don't want the sheep in there is because that is an elderberry. Very poisonous, very toxic. I also have cherries back in there. 2 of those sheep are ready to be butchered on Monday. I do not want to risk having them get into elderberries and getting dead. We have this here also to keep the sheep from getting into the goose grain. So the geese have plenty of space in there to graze, and the sheep can graze here. I don't care if the sheep eat the willows. I have decided I don't like the look of the willows, and I would rather put this into fruiting trees rather than willows if I'm going to protect it and water it as much as I do. The bees love the comfrey, but the sheep won't bother the comfrey. They'll nibble on it just a teeny tiny bit, but they don't really care for comfrey. It's a little prickly for them. We found a cool spot. Hi! Should we go in the house? I think you're getting too hot. We'll go in the house where it's not so hot. Everybody else found the entrance. What I'm hoping is that they come in here where it's really shady. It's very nice and shady, and that's exactly where it needs to be grazed the most. Because I think these sea buckthorns just need a shock to make them start fruiting. Oh, you're so happy. Sea buckthorn is so good for every kind of herbivore. Oh my gosh, they love it. The rabbits love it, the goats love it, the sheep love it. And they already know where their water is. So once they have finished eating and they're feeling like they're getting a little too warm, they'll go back and find their water, or they'll go back to the house and sit on the front step to cool off. Aren't they beautiful? It makes such a huge difference when they're raised by a mama. They really need that love. Even if their mama is a goat, they need that. So there we go. You would not believe the difference they will make within a week's time of all this. That's about how much time we have before they go to the butcher. And then after two of them go to the butcher, the other one we're keeping as a stud. We'll bring the ewes up here and switch them. We won't keep the ram in there with them because it's not that time of year. Yep, they found the plums. Yeah, it's not that time of year for him to be in there with them yet. We need to wait till the end of September, maybe October. The reason this is safe is because they have already been eating lots and lots of fruit bushes and alfalfa and grass. They haven't been on a strictly hay diet at all. They've been out already eating this kind of thing. So putting them in here, the grass is not lush. It's kind of brown. The trees are not going to make them sick. The fruit, I hope the fruit doesn't make them sick. But generally they have pretty good sense. They'll kind of shift from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. They don't stick on one thing for very long. What do you think, little sheep? Is this the good life? It is really warm today. Let's escape. Better. So hot out here. Let's go. Come on, Graham. You got water in here. Does Graham have water?
Yeah.
It's full?
Well, there's not very big, right?
Fill it up, please.